Before we begin, please be advised that this show may contain some adult themes that may not be appropriate for all listeners. Use your discretion. Now, on to our show. Welcome to the Sippin Saga Society. This is literally the second time that we are doing this because I forgot to press record the first time. But this is our pirate special, and we are here for chaos, apparently. My name is Karina, and I am your host. And every week we bring you histories, mysteries, and just stories worth telling. But today we are focusing on pirates, and Randy and Greg will be carrying us through that journey. I'm super pumped. I'm excited
Sure
you're here.
thing.
Heck yeah.
But they are not the only ones here. We have some new friends with us. Danielle, Randy's sister, has joined us for her first episode. So I am so excited to welcome you, Danielle.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
And also, we have our bestest friend, Christina, in her second to last episode before she goes on maternity leave.
Hello.
Yay. But first, we have that very important question. What are you sipping? And will it protect you from scurvy? Okay, Greg, will your beverage keep you safe from scurvy?
I think it might. So we're down to just what we have in the house right now because I haven't gone shopping. So I have a vodka lemonade with Rocktown orange vodka. So some citrusy elements. I don't know if like
Does
Costco
the
lemonade
alcohol
would protect you
cancel that
from.
out?
Well, it's like the citrus that you need to protect from scurvy, right? I don't know if Costco lemonade has
The
enough
vitamin C.
citrus,
You need
but
vitamin C. I don't
yeah,
think that
vitamin C.
alcohol
There you
Oh,
go.
cancels out the vitamin
meanwhile,
C.
I'm thinking about the orange in the vodka. I'm like, that orange vodka cannot possibly have.
Oh, I don't think the vodka has
Yeah.
vitamin C.
Yeah, exactly. So I was right. We were just talking about different things.
Well, mine is powdered lemonade and water, mostly water. So I don't know how much vitamin C the powdered lemonade has either. But it will protect me from scurvy.
I feel like you
And
could
really,
slip
that's
some
what matters.
vitamins in there,
Is
maybe.
that lemonade? I'll be honest, it looks a little watery.
It's like 90% water. My favorite beverage is
Water.
something watered down.
You must be one of the people that loves LaCroix, right? Like just a
I
hint.
do. Unfortunately, I
Mm,
do drink a lot of seltzer at my
I do
house.
I
too.
like
Evan
seltzer
says,
too.
yeah. Evan says it helps us like get through the day. No, it's because I used to drink them and he's like, is it just to make it through the pain of life? And I'm like, yeah, it's like drinking a beer at the end of the day. It's just like it burns so good.
Oh my.
Yeah.
But I do feel that way with Dr. Pepper. Like I like the carbonation. I want it
hmm
to fizz.
I
I,
even add the
I s-
lemonade to it, to the carbonated water to make it like a little flavored, but not too much.
I use them to like stop drinking soda because I used to drink a lot of Dr. Pepper, and in like grad school I stopped because I was like I just want to cut soda out of my diet. So I only get it if I'm getting like Taco Bell.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's the beverage of Taco Bell.
But that's like the one exception for me. Maybe like one or two others a year.
I feel like Greg's trying to say something. Christina, do you feel like
No, I'm saying that the seltzers are
that?
good. Like that was the only thing that like helped me, wanting to do that.
Well, Randy, are Greg's targets validated? Do you, Randy and Christina, have Dr. Pepper?
Yes, I do in fact have Dr. Pepper. Of course I do. You know what? I do so much. I do so much. I You got to give me that one. I just don't care. I have tried to stop drinking soda and I have never been able to do it. And I realized this last time I was like, "Oh, stop. I don't want to." So, why would I?
And also, Randy, you have so many foods you cannot eat
That's true.
that, like, just freaking have the soda, girl. Just have it.
Mhm.
Hey, I feel like it's fair.
Yeah, something's gonna kill me. I might as well enjoy it.
Yes. Okay, Danielle, what are you sipping?
Some red wine from Dave Matthews Band.
Wow. In a turn of events, I'm just now learning about how the Dave Matthews Band have a wine company, apparently. And what's it called? Do you remember?
Well, the kind I'm drinking tonight is called Crush, but it's got the Dreaming Tree. It's the Dreaming Tree, and it has that as its brand.
Oh, how
It's
cute.
got to be a California, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
It's
I
got
would
to be.
I'm
imagine.
definitely thinking that. Yeah.
Have y'all had the Snoop Dogg wine?
No,
Yes,
but I
I also
see it
love
all the
The
that
19
time.
wine.
Crimes or whatever. I bought it just because I was like, I want to try the Snoop Dogg wine, you know?
I saved the bottle.
I mean, we remember
Right.
my did you guys remember the classic of my Il Bastardo wine? I fucking love
Yes.
that wine. It's so it's
The
just
little
it's
Did
got
you
tall
this
enjoy
guy.
chubby little
it? I
boy on
mean, you
it.
did finish it.
I
I watched you.
I have not edited that episode, and let me tell you, I'm unsure of what to find there. Like I don't know what's gonna happen. I remember recording it and being like, what did we just experience? I mean, it's a good episode. I know it was funny. I don't remember it. Anywho, Christina, what are you sipping?
I have my tried and true Dr. Pepper with a lot of ice because I
It's
want
the
it
beverage of the
cold.
show.
Yep, Randy, cold, crispy.
Yeah,
You
that's why
already
I put
know.
it in the fridge. I don't want ice though.
Mm-hmm.
I am a sipper, you know what I mean? It
Mm-hmm.
will water down.
Oh yeah.
I
That's me
will get it
too.
to a point.
Mhm.
Well, if it's
I
me, I'll
chug
just drink
mine.
it. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
same.
no biggie.
Danielle says this, but she doesn't even drink soda anymore. She's like Greg. It's like a blue moon when I see her drink one.
Listen, today at work they did some dirty sodas for us. So
What
I
does that mean?
actually
Is that milk when they put the milk in
um
there?
Cream.
That's disgusting.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's cream, but we did cream was an option. I did Coke and peach, and it kind of reminded me of Crown Peach.
I've never had Crown
That's like a
Peach.
Mormon thing though, right? Like the dirty
Yeah.
Yeah, like
sodas.
they can't
Yeah, yeah.
have
Yeah.
alcohol, so they substitute with sugar.
So like we're gonna make soda and even soda's got caffeine. That might be a little edgy.
Yeah, that's dirty to them.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
I
you're
don't
They're
not
watch
not
Mom
supposed to have
Talk, guys.
caffeine.
it's a drug, so it's bad for you.
I think
But it
that's the
is
only
created
one they
Obviously,
can
naturally.
have, though, isn't it?
Does
Like,
that
it's
matter?
large
It
quantities.
depends on
Yeah.
like the group of Mormon.
Okay.
Like some are really strict and some aren't.
hmm
I gotta say, I don't know the Mormon factions. Like, I'm thinking, is it like a broken down situation like Amish to Mennonite or like
I
Jewish
think it kind of
I
is
feel
Orthodox?
like
like they're
that
just
because
offsprings of the same. Like, it's
there's
like the
like a
Mormon church.
Missouri group that stays when the others leave and stuff, and they're different. Like I know that much, but I don't know too much about it.
I feel like they all just are their own little separate cults, honestly. Like, there was the Church of Mormon, and then they all had their own little offshoots
Oh,
of
they're for
little.
sure a cult. They're for sure a
But
cult.
I'm
Yeah.
really okay. This is weird too. I'm really into the FLDS,
Of
like
course,
the.
I love watching
I
about
need
it.
to know everything. I've read a lot of the books. Watched every documentary. I need to know.
Did
I don't know why.
I love that about you, Karina, actually, because I agree. Warren Jeffs is wildly that whole situation. I always think it's super, super interesting when stuff like that happens because how much of yourself, like how much of your common sense do you have to like let go of
To
to
allow
get
a
that far?
13-year-old to marry a 60-year-old man and be like,
But
he should have more child brides.
like in my mind it's even worse because they're not even distracted by like TV and shit. So all they have to do is pay attention. That's literally it. There's not
Randy, you're
like
not even
Yeah.
allowed to look at anything else. How are you
right,
not
you're
seeing
just at
this?
home, so you're just missing literally what's right in front of your face. So how much cognitive dissonance do you need to be able to exist in a place like that where
Well,
you don't get to hide yourself somewhere?
if you hit somebody when they're vulnerable enough, you can brainwash them or manipulate them if you know how to. And a lot of cult leaders know exactly how to do just that and get people to stay in desperate situations when if you were not as vulnerable or maybe in a different state of mind, obviously you would have picked differently.
Yeah. We had someone from the Jonestown cult come talk at Tech whenever I first started working there.
Really?
Yeah, it
That's
was. I
so
went to the
interesting.
talks. I was like, when are you gonna get to like hear a Jonestown survivor talk about their experience, right? And it was interesting because she was like not what I expected. She like even to this day was like, I love that group. It was like the best group of people, and part of me kind of wishes I died when everyone else died, but like it was awesome and amazing, like up until that point, and you're just kind of like,
It was great until it wasn't.
yeah, but she's like, but even then it wasn't that bad, and that was the part that I thought was really wild because that's what I was not expecting.
It wasn't
And then she
that
joined a
bad.
cult after
Everyone
that cult.
died.
Yeah. Yeah, because it leaves a power vacuum. Sure, that makes perfect sense to
Yeah.
me.
So she was one of the people that was like in the town where people would fly into at the airport, and they got like radioed a like the command to like tell like get on the radio and tell all the other because there's still cult members in like California. They were
Mm.
supposed to give them the order to kill themselves, and the people at that station, like the radio station slash like landing house for when people got in, she was part of that group, and they were like, no, we're not going to do that. And so they disobeyed, but then but they knew that everyone was dying back at the camp and stuff.
I kind of feel like okay. I kind of feel like this is going to be a wild opinion because I didn't quite understand what you were saying, Greg. So my mind was going in a different direction than what you actually said because I was thinking that like people were physically stopping it. Like there was someone at the place that was like physically stopping the
I don't
message
think
from
so.
getting.
No.
Yeah. But like in my head, that's what I thought you meant
Oh yeah.
before you got to the end. And the thought that popped in was, I really don't know that it's right for us to stop people from practicing their free will. Outside of involving minors, I don't know that I would think that it was right for somebody to stop that message like that. You're making a lot of decisions for that other person's very life, you know? That might be a hot take
Do you
though.
mean like if you are allowing the cult leader to like choose your overall like whatever you're doing with your life?
No,
Or like letting them
as
like
an
let them choose to
outside
follow somebody?
entity, understanding what we just heard Greg say about this Jonestown person who was
Hmm.
like, I still to this day kind of wish that I would have died with them. It seems kind of wrong for people to have gone in and tried to intervene in that for
Yeah,
full-grown adults. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, like
I'm
if they are choosing to live in this
Like
community, why
if you
not?
want to go out with them, like why stop them kind of thing.
yes,
Honestly, I
yeah,
agree. I
honestly,
think
yes.
if
Yeah.
you're not dragging your kids to do and live in a life that you
Yeah,
don't
the
want
minors
to,
are completely
Uh,
different. I
right.
do not agree with minors.
yeah. I That's like one of the
But I
fucked up
also don't
things
know.
though. Like that audio is available online. It's one of those like forbidden things that I've never wanted to listen to because it's like apparently they were recording, so you like the audio file of him like giving the order and everyone
Hmm.
drinking the stuff and people crying and
I
shit is, like
I
out
did
there.
listen to it. I
I
wrote a report
couldn't.
on
I couldn't.
Jonestown. I Randy, Morgan will
Shocked. I'm
tell
actually
you.
shocked you did.
Morgan will tell you the only reason she knows about Jonestown is because the report I did because I made her listen to the tapes with me because I
She was
had
obsessed.
to.
So Morgan, for everyone out there, Morgan's our
Sorry.
youngest sister, and she was legitimately obsessed with Jonestown. I remember coming home
It
because
is
I think I was in
fascinating.
college at the
It
It
time.
is.
yeah, but he is right. Like you can hear like you hear people crying as they watch their kids die
And it just
from
goes
this.
silent, right? Like I mean, I've heard people describe it, but I'm just like that's something
Yeah,
I
well,
don't want
there
to
were
listen
some
to.
that knew, so like they were emotional and upset about it, but there were some that just drank it and I don't think knew really the process of what was going to happen.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's because it's not a quick death, so you hear it. Some of the people when they're watching other people who are already gone, so
Well, that
it's
was
really intense.
I love this
not a
rabbit
turn
hole
I
we've
saw the
ended up in.
podcast. What?
So I love where we've ended up somehow.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. That was not a turn I saw for the podcast tonight.
For the pirate
Wow.
episode, Pirates in
Wow.
So
Jonestown.
cults.
Cool.
I do
I
want
okay,
to
truly, I have always wanted to do a cults episode, but it's because I find them so fascinating.
A
I
cult
do
episode
too.
would be good. I
I
could talk
love
about a
them.
sex cult in early America, so I could do that.
I
Which
Greg,
one?
love
Yes.
every day there's
I
wait,
know, right? There's always a good story.
There's
there's
the modern one.
always
Did you hear about Teal? Did you watch her documentary? She had them do like tape her to show that she wasn't like a cult. And in the end, when they did the analysis, she checked off all the boxes of what
A
a
cult.
cult has. Yeah. And it was but it's a modern, like she's still out there, like talking to people and intervening in their lives
Oh
when
yeah,
they
there are
look to
Like
multiple
trying to
her.
build a cult.
scale cults.
Disturbing.
Danielle
Yeah,
and I got accused of being in a cult last week.
we sure did.
What kind of
We
cult were
sure
you in?
did.
It was, I mean, we grew up in a really
Religious background.
evangelical background, and so
We have touched on that on the
we,
episodes.
yes, we have. We and Karina, you know a lot more of it. Danielle and I were not, our family did not buy into it so much. So we were not, we were really critical of a lot of the things. So I don't feel like we were in the cult. We just had to attend the cult.
Yes,
Activities.
that's better.
Yeah, we were around cult members.
We sure were. There were a lot my age that
There.
went the other way.
That's freaking wild.
That was
We will have
wild.
to revisit this.
Happy to.
Okay, Randy, it is your turn to tell us about pirates. The natural transition, Randy, of
The natural one.
cult to pirate. But also, is pirating a cult? A question. I don't know. I think it's a good
No.
job. It's a job.
Yeah.
Good
It
job.
literally, in my research, they called it a profession. Like they said piracy was a profession
Put some
in
respect on
China.
that name.
It's
Mhm.
not an identity.
No,
It's
it's a job.
profession.
It's a profession that
It's a
people
profession
leave,
like being a
apparently.
nurse, a doctor, I was going to say cop, but not
What's
on
the
this podcast.
salary?
What you win, Danielle. It's what you make of it. It's like a sales
It's
job.
what you loot. Yeah, it's how you can sell.
I've
Okay.
always worked in sales.
You'd be a great pirate, Danielle.
Thank you. I've always wanted to be one. I've got a thing for eye patches.
Which is wild. I mean,
I've always wanted one.
meanwhile, I had to wear one.
Sure
I
Maybe
was
did.
the
that's why you
only one in
wanted
the
one, Danielle.
family that had to wear one.
Probably. Always idolized Randy. I just
Mhm.
wanted to look like her in her eye patch. She couldn't see though. I want to be able to see.
What do you mean I couldn't see?
You had an eye
That's
patch.
why you had the eye patch, because you shot yourself in the face with the BB
That's
gun.
true. That's
Shut.
true.
And you
Wait,
couldn't
you're
see.
just
That
gonna
is
You shot
in
bypass. You know
yourself in
fact,
what?
the
You're
face
right,
that
with a
is in
Danielle.
BB
fact
gun?
why I had the eye patch.
I thought Randy had the eye patch. You know how some kids have like a lazy eye or something and they have to
Oh,
like
like
cover it
to
No.
up?
correct it?
No, sorry, that's too basic for
No.
Randy, guys.
Randy willingly
We're too
shot herself.
extreme. Yeah, she did.
Listen, it
Extreme
was
sports.
jammed. It
Oh, you
was
know what? You're right.
jammed.
I was here for winter sports. Yeah.
Yeah, that should have clued you in. If the BB gun was jammed, I just wanted to take a looky-loo. It
If
didn't
I've learned
end well.
anything from
And then
Christina's
it got
house,
unjammed.
that's rule number one, Randy.
Is you don't look down the barrel of a gun,
Yeah.
any gun, a Nerf gun, none of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
My husband won't have any of it.
Yeah.
He's military and 0311 infantry is his specialty. He takes that very serious.
We weren't taught, I mean, they weren't teaching us that. I just did it. I did. It was not good. I tried to hide it for as long as I could.
You're lucky you
Randy.
didn't like take your eye out.
Yeah.
Yeah, truthfully. It was a very cool experience, though, I will say, because when I went to the doctor's office, they held my eye open and they put all these different dyes in my eye. And I don't know if you guys have ever put on colored glasses and wished that they were like bigger so that everything was that color, like you didn't have any of the edges. That was that. I mean, everything was like psychedelic because like the ceiling was green and then
That's
Randy,
wild.
I may have shot myself in the eye, but for
I
a
had nothing
second,
but
I was
fond
one of those
memories of
shrimp
that
that could see
experience.
everything.
Yeah, fond memories of that experience. No bad. I don't think my family felt that way, but I enjoyed it.
I'm just thinking about now you've said it like that. I'm like thinking about being like your parent and being like, she shot herself where?
We were at Aunt Debbie's and Uncle Ted's.
No!
We weren't even
Full circle.
home. Weren't even home.
Wow.
Okay.
Yep.
My story tonight is full of adventure and intrigue. One of the most successful pirates in history, Zheng Yi Sao, is yet another badass woman you really wish you knew about. And if you're wondering how I know this, everyone I have told the her story to this week has Googled her and is now obsessed. I'm hoping you all enjoyed as much.
I just love that she's Asian. I'm gonna be honest. That
She's
probably sounds
amazing.
very biased, but
No,
I
girl,
am
We don't hear about
representation.
Asian
okay. Yep.
history at
You take
all.
it.
Hmm.
You absolutely take it. The specific details of Zheng Yi Sao's birth and early life are hazy at best. We do know that she was born with another name, most likely Shi Yang, between 1775 and 1780, to very humble origins. While we don't have a lot of information on Shi Yang specifically, we can learn about what the culture and social structure was in her region in the late 18th century. The country's environment and landscape had a huge impact on the trajectory of piracy in general and made Shi Yang's exploits even more enthralling. What one thing I did find really interesting about her early history was that they say that they theorize that she's of Tonka origin, which is, and this goes right along with our theme, it's a boat people, and they say that she was actually born on a boat, which I thought was really synergistic for our month.
We do love boats here for some reason this
We are
month.
loving them.
We're so boaty. But also, I love that for her, for like a woman who's going to live her life on a boat, to be born on a
Hmm.
boat. Like how
Hmm.
magical. Mm.
Hmm. Before I get too far, let's address the name issue. I am going to refer to our pirate empress as Shi Yang for the rest of this. But if you look her up, you will see many names and a lot of different spellings. As we delve into it more, women at the time were summarily dismissed simply because of their gender, something I'm sure many of our listeners can relate to. Because of this disparities between men and women's status in China, with strong influence from Confucius, whose ideology pushed a deeply patriarchal world order that included ideas of gender segregation, Shi Yang took her husband's name. And I don't mean in the family name way. Zheng Yi Sao is translated as wife of Zheng Yi. Shi Yang's first husband. So this was Shi Yang's first husband's name. So I'm just gonna not tell the story from that lens, and we're going to be calling her Shi Yang for the rest of this. Okay?
So
Also,
for this, so for her story, like for the primary of her story, people think she's the husband.
her husband's, because she has two that we'll talk about. Her
Oh,
husbands get almost all of the credit for the work that she did. A lot of it because of the naming issue.
because she is wife of XYZ.
Yes.
Mm. So instead of say, okay. Well, and then it's also in that time and even now, whatever a man's perceived property does is what he does and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Gross. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
well, thank you for clarifying, Randy.
You're welcome. I put in also, I hate to ruin it for you in here, but many of those older philosophers and the schools of thought they developed angled themselves the same way against women. The two most famous that come to my mind were Aristotle and Freud. And related in my mind, I've been watching some videos about the documentary Inside the Manosphere. It's giving very much insecure. So I think if you if you guys like want to delve deeper, that's a whole nother rabbit trail that I went on when I was doing this. Anyway, back to Shi Yang. Growing up in China in the late 1700s was not an easy life. And that was even more true for women. China at the time was experiencing huge population growth that was outpacing their ability to manage or create infrastructure for. By the end of the 18th century, the country was facing many problems, including internal rebellions and Mongolian attacks. Climate changes in the area impacted the availability of fertile farming land and exacerbated an already stressful situation. In southeastern China, near the sea, they were experiencing such growth that people were being pushed out of their villages and communities into other areas in search of land or work. Additionally, the taxation to fund the country's quelling of rebellion and attack hung heavily around the necks of the coastal merchants in the area. And this was primarily due to the fact that they made enough money to be taxed to provide funds for these things. This desperate bid for space led to communities that lived primarily on boats and very rarely ever crossed over onto land. In this time for women, the roles of life were very set. As I said, the Confucian influence on the society was very strong. A daughter's role was obedience to her father, a wife's role was deference to her husband, and a widow or elderly woman would assist or was supposed to be of assistance to her eldest son. On the mainland during this time, a cultural practice of binding women's feet had been regularly practiced as a status symbol for almost 800 years at the time. I'm sure, I mean, most people, when they learn about Chinese history, learn about the feet binding. But women in floating communities were not seen to participate in this tradition, which in turn lowered their status even further in the Chinese social culture. So it was a very difficult time for women living on the fringe of society, with few opportunities to find a place in society, and the vast majority of those opportunities, and I'm talking like 99% of them, outside of being like an amazing poet or a singer or something in those kinds of trades, the only way to gain any sort of power was to be a wife. As such, these women were often forced into shadier activities as a way of providing for themselves because they could not move among society or gain power in any other way. These things included prostitution, running brothels, engaging in human trafficking, or providing other such services. Piracy in the South China Sea had already been happening off and on for decades, if not centuries. It was originally seen as a nuisance. So, to your point, Karina, when we were talking about this, it was originally seen as a nuisance, as most of the pirates were fishermen who relied on piracy to live and pay their debts when the fishing season was over. So, when it would get too cold for them to go out on their fishing boats and fish, they became pirates.
I mean, that's the natural progression of things. You already have boats.
Mm-hmm.
And also, how much do you have to do to go like it all depends on the haul you get, right? So you could just pirate one time and
Yeah.
it's
Potentially a really good, yeah,
You're done for the
really good haul.
season.
right.
Yeah. And when they were done, they would just seamlessly join back into society as a fisherman and just start fishing again. So they weren't pirates full time or anything. They were just kind of using it as an income supplement.
Oh,
Yep.
So it was
So
like their second job.
yeah,
it
their
is a
summer
profession,
job if you
Randy.
were a teacher. It's your summer job.
But like I think of it like a broker. Like if I get a really big one, I don't know that I need to be keeping my second job for very long,
That's
you know?
true, but you got to think about the fact that these were single boats. So like maybe, a crew of, depending on the boat size, it could be a crew of anywhere from 70 to 40 men. Like how much are you really going to be able to get? And then if you are able to get a bigger haul, is it because you have a bigger crew and it's going to be divided more ways? So they would just go back as a fisherman and when their season was ready. Now, there was an uprising in modern day Vietnam, what we call Vietnam, that raised the Vietnamese rebels to emperors fighting against their enemies. But they didn't have a navy at the time, these Vietnamese rebels, okay? So in an interesting move that ended up turning piracy into a full-blown profession in the South China Sea, Vietnam ended up employing the pirates as privateers to fight against the Nguyen lords that were oppressing them. So this was a huge break for piracy and created a training ground of sorts, okay? It allowed them to have a base of operations. It provided safe harbors and protection for them to harbor together, and it provided the space that the pirates needed to learn how to be coordinated and to cooperatively interact in order to become a stronger fleet, right? Because working as privateers, they're coordinating attacks together. So in 1802, when the lords were defeated and the pirates didn't have any intention of fading back into the background of society, you know, the South China Sea had a real problem on its hands, right? Or power gap, you know? They fought a bit, they fought a lot, but they ended up coming together in agreement that their strength would be found in alliance. So, seven pirate leaders agreed to join forces and signed a contract to share and divide their attacks of the South China Sea. It created a unified naval force and outlined profit sharings and rules of the sea. Honestly, their setup seemed very much like a mafia outfit that we're all so familiar with now. They were forcing boats to buy protection and raiding everybody else who hadn't bought protection. Their bases were inland on coastal cities, so sometimes their activities would carry over into the mainland. So they were kind of like dipping their toe into all the pools. Now we're going to return to Shi Yang's story because it's around this time that records of her pick up. Annoyingly, they pick up because it's when she meets her first husband. Because of the Confucian standard and the patriarchal society, they didn't keep a lot of records about women. So we start to learn about her through her interaction with her first husband. Remember in this time, oh, sorry, I already said that. So Shi Yang was working on a floating brothel at the time, either as a prostitute or a madam. The stories around these two's meeting is a lot. There's like I personally read six different versions of this story. So I'm going to tell you guys the two that I like the most. But Shi Yang had a reputation as a beautiful, savvy businesswoman with very wealthy clients that she would trade secrets with during her pillow talk time, okay? So she had a really strong reputation, which then caused Zheng Yi, the pirate captain in this new world order, to seek her out and offer her marriage. Now, the other way the story is told here is that some accounts say that Shi Yang herself was the pursuer, and she was smart and cunning, and she was looking for a way to move out of her current station. And it was her who, upon hearing that Zheng Yi was available and like out there, she went to him and convinced him to marry her and move her up into another realm of power.
Slay queen.
Yes, I know. And to be honest, I believe that version more than him going and seeking her out when you hear the rest of the story, because in my head when I'm thinking, even if he was the one who was like going to seek her out, she was calling him in. I'm just yes, slay queen, slay. So this marriage was speculated to have been entered into with terms similar to a prenup that established equality between Zheng Yi and Shi Yang. She refused to follow the role of a wife or a concubine and wished for a full life in the world of her husband. Regardless, they were married in 1801, and it wouldn't be long before she was, in fact, joining him in the life of piracy under the Southern Chinese Pirates Confederacy, established in 1802. I'm going to add an aside here because that same year, a fisherman's son was brought in and taken apparently as a lover by Zheng Yi. This was not an unusual practice at the time, especially in the seafaring folk that were really, uh, accepting of homosexuality or bisexuality. The weird part is that Zheng Yi ended up adopting this teenage captain, who I'm very concerned about the age that he took him as a lover, if we're describing him as a teenage captain. But Cheng Pao was his name. Um, and the adoption was thought to be a legal move to secure the inheritance from Zheng Yi went to Cheng Pao and moved on to the promising youth. But as time moved on and the story develops, Shi Yang and Cheng Pao also become involved.
Brandy,
Yeah, it's a real
you just kept adding more to it. And I was
I
like, what
know.
is
It's a real,
happening?
and it becomes important, which is why I even put it in here. Otherwise, I'm not sure I'd share that weird history.
Randy went real weird this
It's,
episode. I
it's
just
about
hate how he was
piracy.
like, I
It's
just
about
want you.
piracy.
It's like the pirate Pretty Woman.
The pirate pretty much. It's weirder
Well, we'll
than
say it tracks with everything I've read about her, so you know.
great. I mean, sure, sure.
Greg said can confirm.
Yeah. No, I
Well,
mean,
no, that for sure happened. You guys will see, but it did for sure happen. That is 100% accurate. So, in the vacuum left by lost employment from the Vietnamese rebels, once that war was over, the Zhangs took control. They were responsible for the new organization of forces into six large fleets under the flags of red, white, green, blue, black, and yellow. They ended up calling them the Fleet of Many Colors, I think is how some people refer to it, because they all just flew under these flags of color. And by 1804, they were completely up and running. The largest of those fleets was the Red Fleet, which had 300 vessels and roughly 40,000 men. Altogether, the entire South China Confederacy, South China Sea Confederacy, had 400 vessels and just over 70,000 men. They were officially a navy at that point.
Are
Although
they
her
just a
husband,
sea navy then? Like, do they just belong to the sea since they're pirates?
yeah,
Because they're not
for
like they don't have a
now.
big sovereign. Like they don't have. I mean, in theory, I guess
Yeah,
they're
no,
being paid.
their ships are their domain.
Right. Yes. Okay.
Look, it's
Yeah.
almost like in Pirates of the Caribbean 3 when Keira Knightley took over and united all of the groups to fight back against one common cause and then she controlled it. It's like almost like they thought they did a nod to her.
That is true.
Well, probably actually, if she was the most successful pirate. So, although her husband, Zheng Yi, was regarded as a charismatic leader who unified the pirate forces, Shi Yang was the clever strategist behind the force. There is no way without a firm, if harsh hand, that a group of over 70,000 pirates remains coordinated and subordinate to leadership without strict rules, right? Shi Yang made sure that each fleet leader was somehow devoted to the Zhangs, whether they held while they held some power over their individual fleets, each of the captains had a familial or personal tie or debt that ensured their loyalty to the Zhangs. So, how did China's government respond? Were they overwhelmed? Local leaders were being deposed of, and truthfully, the pirate fleet had control. Then comes 1807, where we find the recorded death of Zheng Yi, cause unknown. Shi Yang's name changed again to Zheng Shi, meaning Zheng's widow. Society now expected her to go back quietly into an oppressed way of life, but we already know that that's not what she did. She decided retirement wasn't for her. She's like, I'm not ready to be put to pasture yet. She moved swift. This woman moved so swift to consolidate power and establish her position as the admiral of the fleets. She garnered the support of the two most powerful fleet commanders, and then moved her stepson into the primary position of power, leading the Red Fleet, which was the largest of the six fleets. Along with that promotion, she began to openly court him exclusively. So, sleeping with him, dating with him. She was like, it's out in the open, but we're monogamous. And eventually married him and positioned him next to her to lend credibility to her leadership and consolidation of power. The fleets could not be maintained without a rule of law. And Shi Yang had a lot of thoughts about this. Thoughts that would ensure the vessels and men were well behaved, but also established an intense culture of loyalty to the fleet. So, what were some of these rules? There was a traditional hierarchy set up that could not be circumnavigated. Orders go top to bottom. Should a pirate disobey orders from the top or somehow gave their own orders without permission, whoop, head chopped off. Every raid and business deal had to be approved by Shi Yang. If you were found engaging in outside business, your head would be chopped off. The profits were 20% to the ship and 80% to the communal fleet. Transactions were overseen by an accountant, and if any pirate was found dipping into the coffers, you guessed it, head chopped off. However, if you only failed to register the items and they were found, the punishment ranged from severe whipping on the deck of your boat to execution. I'll be honest with you, I'm gonna say they probably went to execution. My personal favorite, beheading for the mistreatment of women during any of their raids. Now, before you get to yes, girl, or we gotta stick together, girl,
I'm scared, Randy. I'm not
you need
ready.
to remember the cultural times and the life of Shi Yang lived prior to piracy. In many cases, these captured women were considered products of profit. They would be well compensated for them within the human trafficking markets as either prostitutes or slaves. Unless, of course, they were ugly, in which case they were freed immediately. If, when in captivity, they were raped by one of the pirates, you know what happens. Head chopped off. If the prisoner was a willing participant in those sexual activities, they would also lose their head with the pirate who engaged in those activities. So it was a 2-for-1 deal. The only way around this was for a pirate to choose to take the woman on as his wife or kind of like in a concubine status, but he would then be obliged to remain faithful to her for the rest of his life. If he didn't, you guys already know, his head was chopped off. Yeah, that's it. Now you guys can't see it, but they're all doing the axing motion on their necks. Now, there are a couple of other rules, but they're what you expect, and they all end in mutilation or execution. Shi Yang was now able to really build up and build out her pirate empire. I put a thing in here because have any of you guys seen Peaky Blinders?
No.
Okay, guys, this is a audio podcast.
I have not.
Everyone is shaking their head no.
I started the series. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, I started the series, but I didn't get very far
that's okay.
in it.
It's a little too violent for me, to be honest. Christina, have you seen Peaky Blinders?
I have, yes.
Okay, so You're gonna get this part then because I've been watching it through for the last couple of weeks. I'm in season 4 because my friends up here were like, we got to be ready for the movie that's coming out because they just came out with a movie. But this next part feels very similar between the two stories. So, a gritty, violent organization that teams up with other unscrupulous characters but is looking for an out into legal, above board business dealings. That's exactly what happened in Peaky Blinders. It's exactly what Xi Yang ends up trying to do in the South China Sea, right? So, for this, she turned to salt. In the beginning of the 1800s, around 1805 to 1810, the Chinese government employed their own ships to transport salt to their largest areas of trade. Xi Yang sent a portion of her fleet to harass the boats and take the salts and the boats whenever possible. Rather than simply moving the product for profit, Xi Yang had the salt traders enter into a sort of agreement that kept them hauling salt for her, and she would take a large portion of the profits out of that transportation. So China's imperial influence went from 200 some odd ships in this salt trade to 4 left, establishing total control of Xi Yang for the salt routes and trade. So, this didn't stop at the salt trade either. She if it was being transported, she was figuring out how to get a slice of it.
She is a
The
businesswoman,
she
Randy.
is.
Yeah, I was gonna say I love how calculated she is. She's bossing it up for real.
I
Hmm.
understand her methods may be extreme for some, but she kept control of that area, and it shows.
Mm-hmm. She knew what it would take and she went that far. I think one of the things about this is you've got to admire her level of dedication in being like committed to that cause, you know? The Chinese Imperial Navy was really no match for her extensive fleet and operations. There are even accounts of them sabotaging their own ships to avoid a run-in with part of the pirate fleet. Often, merchant ships would pay protection fees to the Southern Chinese Pirate Confederacy because they had no faith in the Imperial Navy's ability to protect them. Not that Xi Yang herself had time to go around hustling these merchants and vessels. She had established places of business in every major coastal city along the South China Sea where people could come and pay for official documents that would exempt them from pirate attacks and plundering. The money from that extortion was then directly used to supply weapons and supplies to the pirate ship. So she had a really efficient, if it ain't broke, don't fix it circle going, you know? None have none of which would have been possible if it wasn't for the extensive intelligence network built up by Xi Yang, which included fishermen and farmers. It had people on the coast and people inland that would provide the pirates with the whereabouts of key prizes. And this was specifically toward like the beginning of this confederacy when they were really a dominating force and they were doing a lot of actual protection, right? So, like a lot of these organizations, when they start out, the people really do feel protected, not intimidated, right? So, Xi Yang's fleet organized into squadrons and were adept at coordinated attacks and creating strong formations to block counterattacks. Cheng Po, her stepson, husband, lover man, oversaw a squadron consisting of 36 ships and about 1,500 men with around 200 canyons. Cannons. Canyons, my goodness, cannons. Even with this manpower, she was so smart. She liked decisive victories rather than drawn out rallies. Supposedly, one of her favorite tactics was to use a large squadron of ships to barrage the target with cannon fire, effectively distracting them from seeing a smaller landing party moving in to finish the job and capture the people on the ship. While there isn't any evidence that she participated in the fighting herself, it was not uncommon for pirate wives to fight alongside their husbands. And Karina, I was telling you about some of the pirate women. There was one in particular that her and her husband were martial arts masters, and when they would fight, it like the way that they described it, I was like, I need to go look this woman up. It sounds like every martial art movie wet dream, you know? With this monopoly well rooted in the South China Sea, where is the fleet to go to expand? To foreign ships, obviously. Ships from Siam, Portugal, the US, the East India Company, and others. In 1809, this raiding came to a head. After the attack of 5 U.S. vessels, raiding on a mayor of Portugal, and a ransoming of Siam tribute to China, the imperial military was looking for assistance. So the emperor agreed to negotiate with foreigners, and the imperial navy secured the assistance of 6 Portuguese men of war and one ship from the East India Company. These ships were soon followed by additional foreign assistance, which put tremendous pressure on Shi Yang's pirate confederacy. By November, a plan of attack was decided by the Portuguese for revenge. Shi Yang was with some of her ships in a bay for repairs when the Portuguese took their chance, sending 3 ships and a brig to attack. This was sometime around the 3rd or 4th of the month. She then sent word immediately for the rest of her Red Fleet to join her in the bay, so she reached out to Chang Pao. This scared them away when they saw that the Red Fleet was coming. It scared the Portuguese away for a few days, but it wasn't long before the Portuguese returned with multiple brigs and frigates. Okay, now for those of you who don't know, I did have to look this up, so I'm going to say this for everyone. A brig is a double-masted ship, okay? So think 2 sails, those masts, that's a brig. It's a big ship. The frigates are more fast, nimble sailing warships that are there to like kind of dart in and do more of that dirty work, according to my research, okay? So that's just for your edification.
Thank you,
By
Randy,
the
because I did not know that those were really boats, even. So that is really helpful.
Everything's about boats. By the 20th, so November 20th, this blockade was joined by over 90 Imperial naval vessels. The pirates did what they normally would do and pushed back on the challengers. However, the weather was not with them. Well, I guess the weather wasn't with either of them because the skirmish seemed to reach a stalemate of the Chinese vessels and sent them, oh, reached a stalemate by the 20th of November. This didn't sit well with the Imperial Navy, who then set fire to dozens of the Chinese vessels. So they were like, we're tired of this. So they just set fire to like 40 of these Chinese vessels and sent them sailing, drifting toward the pirate fleet. Somehow, because honestly, I really don't know how she did it, Shi Yang was able to divert the ships onto the beaches where they doused out the fires and turned what remained of the ships into firewood for them. 2 ships even had the misfortune of blowing back onto the Imperial Navy and then setting some of their manships on fire. On the 29th, the pirates found a break in the weather and were able to make it out onto the open South China Sea. By the end of this, the Navy had lost 3 ships and 74 men, while the pirates lost 1 ship and 40 men in what became known as the Battle of Tiger Mouth. But this conflict, or maybe the ones leading up to it as well, had caused Shi Yang to think even more of the future for herself and her crew. In fact, later in 1809, in December, Shi Yang attempted to persuade the Portuguese to change sides and join the pirates. They did not do that. They were like, not on your life. But she then decided, okay, she's going to turn her negotiation tactics on to the Chinese Empire. By 1810, internal dissent had begun in the pirate ranks, with reports of the Blackfeet even refusing Shi Yang's call for aid and surrendering to another rebel group. Rather than fall into complete ruin, the pirate queen began negotiations with a governor general of one of the largest regions. Her proposal was pretty straightforward. She would dismantle her operation if there was a total pardon for herself and her pirates, because what could they do? Key appointments made of the strongest captains of her fleet, including her second husband, Chang Pao, and she would be able to retain a small force of 5,000 sailors and 80 ships. This did not go over well with the Governor General, who did not want her to retain such a large contingency of pirates. Progress wasn't made until April of 1810 when Shi Yang bravely entered the Governor General's home, accompanied only by other women and children of her captains. Now, I'm going to pause here because that is the way that it was written in all of the accounts that I read. But given what I just said about how pirate wives of captains would fight with their husbands, I really don't think she was as unprotected as all of these historians make it out to be. You know, it kind of just sounds like she went in with this quiet, elite force of people who would, you know what I mean? I just don't think personally that she was as ill-equipped as they make it out to be.
I think she definitely is smarter than that. And yeah, knowing what we know, but also knowing what we know about that time, I bet they did look at the women and think, "Oh, she is definitely not protected in any manner." Not thinking about the fact that pirate women are at a different level.
Well, I just even mean modern accounts. Like these were like recently written.
No, right, but the modern accounts are from things written at that time.
Yeah.
So it's like I bet they're just looking at it through the lens of like if you're just an Englishman writing about this place, you're just like she just went in with a bunch of girls. Like it doesn't make sense because they don't see women as a threat. But like knowing what we know about her and what we know about the pirate community, they're probably there to kick some ass if anything happens.
I just really agree with that. But so she went in there after the stalemate. Not only did Shi Yang absolutely double down on her original offer of the 80 ships and 5,000 men, she increased her demands. And she was like, now you've got to give me, for making me do this again, 40 additional ships so that I can work out in the salt trade and keep my business up and running in the salt trade.
I really love her
Miraculously.
right now. Like, much respect for her negotiation skills there.
And also, that's her business. I understand you don't love the piracy, but her business is to bring salt to all of this. So you're not taking that from her. It's her
Facts.
other job.
And she is a boss.
She is a boss. She is an absolute boss. And they agreed to it. So she ended up with 120 ships.
I'm literally
There you
clapping.
go.
Yes,
Yeah, she did.
this is why you show up and you ask for your worth.
Yep.
You keep
hmm
your standards high. Yep.
hmm So Shi Yang was now considered a formidable but respectable wife. So because they agreed to it, right, she had to disband her fleet. And she's now wife to a colonel. So Chang Pao was made a colonel in the Imperial Navy. So she was made respectable, right, in the ways that we had talked about that the society had deemed respectable. Her name changed yet again to Ming Sao for her new marital role, but Ming out was also a denotation for the respect that she was going to be provided as such a high-ranking military wife. Now, 12 years later, in 1822, Chang Pao died, leaving Shi Yang with two children and a very rich life. Truthfully, this woman was still doing all kinds of things. Okay. She was still dabbling in the trades. She was running successful gambling dens, some of which doubled as brothels. She had maintained her foot into the salt trade. And she didn't lose her touch. So it said that in 1839, when the first Opium Wars were fought, the Imperial Navy consulted with Shi Yang on strategy. So yes. So like the British are coming to fight these opium wars and the Imperial Navy's like, "You know who I think could get us out of this? Let's go to Xiyang. Let's go visit
You
our
know who we
pirate
have
queen."
to ask for help. We can't deal with this alone.
Truly. Sadly, that was the last thing that she would do, as just a year later she would die at her coastal home. Shi Yang would end up being one of, if not the most successful pirate in history. She was able to break through traditional gender roles and run an extensive criminal organization as its violent queen. It's truly amazing, if at times disturbing, what she was able to accomplish, and the forces she was able to control through strict regulation and punishment. I gotta give mad props to this absolutely savage tactician of a woman, okay? I loved doing this research, and even though there were some parts that I didn't love, I think I think she had a life worth living, and I'm really happy for her.
Thank you so much, Randy, because I've literally never heard anything ever. I think I've seen one picture of this woman, maybe.
Yeah,
And
they should teach us about her because I
yeah,
would have grown up to be like, I can do anything. I can be
Hmm.
anything.
and that is why representation matters, but also, well, and even knowing that a woman did that. And I think that it goes to show what a woman can do when you're not held back by society telling you you're lesser than.
Hmm.
Like, yes, she had that beginning, but she went in with like even in her like definitely in her first marriage, she went in as an equal. Like she fought too. She was there. She worked for what she had.
Hmm.
And yes, her consequences were slightly extreme, but I think in that culture, you had to be at that level to make anyone listen to you. You couldn't back down.
Well, but also, like with 80,000 men, you can't be settling squabbles all day long. You can't
No.
be like letting them harbor ill intent to the fleet.
And
You've
also,
got
if you're
to
not going to
demand that
follow the rules,
loyalty.
you can go.
It's a criminal organization,
Yeah,
you
we have shit to
know?
do here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The salt will not bring itself.
Ah, I hope you enjoyed it. I really do.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. That was great.
I thought it was really good.
I did too. I liked it.
I love her. My first thought, I have my stickers that are Elizabeth Bathory.
Hmm.
I'm like, it's
Hmm.
time. I need to make a pirate
It's
sticker.
a
Like
new
I'm
one,
so
yeah.
inspired.
Oh, I love
Well, I
it.
think I told y'all about that show, Our Flag Means Death. The one
I
that's
think
like
you
the
mentioned
pirate
it. Yeah.
comedy and
Hmm.
Blackbeard romance with Steve Bonnet. She's
Hmm.
in that in like the second season.
Oh,
Is
I love
she?
that.
She is. Because they really kind of like try to throw in as much, just like none of it makes sense chronologically and everything. They're like, we want to throw as many pirates as possible into the show, and so they do that.
That's fun.
Yeah,
I mean, that's on HBO, right? So I don't have
it
that.
is.
Yeah, I don't have that, sadly. Or else I'd be watching it. I've been watching a lot of Sandokan, which is the pirate show on Netflix. That was what I was getting myself ready
Oh,
with.
I haven't seen that one.
Honestly, not the best thing I've ever seen, but it's good background noise. Okay, I took entirely too long. I'm so sorry, Greg, but thank you for
Oh,
letting
you're fine.
me ramble on.
No, I thought it was really good. Do you want me to do my part next then?
Yes, Greg, please.
Okay.
I'm really excited to
Um,
hear your part too.
Yeah, so like I was thinking about how to approach this, and I was like, rather than just like talk about the history of a particular person, I was going to talk a little bit about like the sources that we use as historians and like where do pirate like the ideas that we have about pirates, like black flags and a lot of the tropes and stuff come from, you know? Um, because that's the thing, right? Like Pirates of the Caribbean, like everyone watches that and you're like, that's pirates, right? So, so I mean, I've been working on putting a class together on pirates, so I've read a lot about that just to try to like teach a college level class about it. And one of the earliest sources we have that like is where we get a lot of our ideas about pirates from is this book called The General History of the Pirates that came out in 1724. So this is like a modern copy, right? Like we have this book and it's still around.
Can
Um
I just ask you to hold that up again? Because that looks
yeah.
like Y, pirates with a Y. Is that how we're supposed to be spelling pirates?
Oh, there's no like standard spelling of English at this time. So like you get used to stuff being written very weirdly. It's like how someone thinks it sounds, you
When
know?
did they standardize English?
I don't think it's till like the 1800s.
They were like, we should probably all write the same to make it
Like when dictionaries and
understandable.
stuff become more and more
Yeah.
I
popular.
guess whenever more paper started to be circulated
And
Well, when
also,
you
how
want
many people
class
were
distinctions to
writing?
matter, it's like, oh,
and
you know
reading,
how to spell it the right way, you know?
mm,
I feel
it's
like a
probably
lot
to
of it's tied
exclude
to
more people.
class. It probably is, right?
I'm gonna read some book one day and it's gonna be like the history of why
Yeah.
writing is
But
standardized.
But like this is the book that like Robert Louis Stevenson, when he wrote Treasure Island, he cites this as like one of the things that influenced him to write the story. And same with the dude I have in my notes, J.M. Barrie is the guy who wrote Peter Pan, like with Captain Hook and stuff like that. Like this is where a lot of our earliest stories about pirates like Blackbeard and um Henry Avery, like all these famous pirates from that period, like was it like William Kidd? They all like the earliest stories we have about them are in this book that we have written down, other than like little newspaper accounts of like, oh, there's a pirate that they're calling so and so who attacked this place. Like this is where most of those stories come from.
Greg, that just blew my mind. Like, what do you mean
Yeah,
it all came from that book
yeah, well, I mean,
right
like we
there?
can like trace back. We're like, okay, where did this story come from, and try to go as far back as possible. And like they all kind of are around here. Like the only thing earlier than that is a book called The Buccaneers of America that is about like pirates in the 1700s, or sorry, the 1600s. Um, and that's where you get stories about like Henry Morgan, who's like on the Captain Morgan rum and shit like that.
Another mind blown. That's a real man.
Yeah,
I just
yeah. So
I
he
just thought they were
was.
like, it's rum, make it a
No,
pirate.
well, he's interesting. This is like a total aside. He's interesting because he was a famous pirate, but then the British were like, we need a new governor for I think it's Jamaica, and they were like, hey, do you want? We'll forgive you for pirating if you like be governor and catch pirates. And he was like, all right, I'll do it. Um,
So did he make rum popular? Like that all pirates drink rum?
well, I mean, I think rum was around for a long time. There's actually one pirate, I can't remember his name, who like limited rum. He had really strict rules about like drinking and banned alcohol from his ship, which is really wild too. We always think of pirates as like boozing, but I think he's kind of like an exception.
Hmm,
I mean, how much water is there to drink on the ship, really? All I can drink is rum.
yeah.
And it
That's
would
the
get
only
really
option.
gross too, like in barrels.
Ugh.
The
Yeah,
water?
the water, yeah. Like
Hmm.
there's accounts of like in that period of sailing of people like the water having like stuff growing in it and
Stagnate,
everything.
yeah.
Yeah, like just being really gross because they're in wooden barrels, like
And they
in,
wouldn't know to like clean it before they.
yeah. Or like we would like disinfect things and stuff. Like, I mean, they didn't know what scurvy was,
I mean, they can boil it,
you
but
know,
yeah, they
for a
don't know
long
what's in
time.
there.
Yeah, not for
There's,
another
Yeah.
century.
But the other thing I think is really interesting about this book, though, is we don't know who wrote it. And so that's always something that fascinates me too, because it was a not, well, it's published under a name, but we don't think that that person was actually real, which I think makes it even more interesting. You know, like, uh, I don't know. I think that it's really interesting when we don't know who the author is and all we can do is just guess, you know?
that's freaking wild.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
So we
So,
derived all these stories from someone that we don't even know.
Yeah,
well,
I
so we
don't
have
like that. I don't like
we
that.
have theories, right? I mean, that's the best that we have really are theories. I mean, someone wrote it, right? I mean, like it came out in print in 1724, and someone it started
Oh, they had money.
yeah, so someone
1724 and
paid
they
like wrote
printed it.
it, paid to have it printed,
Wow, they
and
had
this
money.
printer or this bookseller named Charles Rivington in London was the first person to sell it. So we even know like what shop it first like showed up in, but we don't actually know like for sure who wrote it.
Okay, if I
But it,
told you that about a book now, you would be like, I know people have, more printing abilities in this day and whatever. But if I told you that, like, I found this book. I'm saying all of this, I have read books and then completely changed my life after I've read the books. But the difference is I know who wrote them. They have
yeah, they have a
credentials.
name on
It's
it.
not just like, so this book came out, there's no author. I'm putting everything and then that has influence. I'm just thinking about how like
Yeah.
everything about I know all this stuff about pirates. Is it all fake? It's from this man? Is it
Well, I mean,
real?
Right, like
I think a lot of it's true. We just have to take a lot of it with a grain of salt, you
A
know?
grain of we don't know who the author
Oh,
is.
I mean,
a
it gets
grain of
worse,
sand.
but it gets worse than that. But I've got some interesting things to
Oh,
share.
Greg, let
But
me ruin that for you.
no, but he claims to be this guy named Captain Charles Johnson, and like historians have looked, and we can't find any like proof of this person actually existing. So like the best guess is that this was like a fake name, and there's like a lot of reasons you would want to have a fake name at this time. Like if you're printing anything that might be like critical of the government, you would write anonymously, and like people would write in like to editorials and just use like a classical Roman name. They'd be like Cato like I wrote, and like you could maybe guess who it was. Or it's like Benjamin Franklin writing as Poor Richard, like people often didn't write as themselves. So we don't know, that's the name that he used, and those are probably some of the reasons why like someone would want to be anonymous. And in fact, since it's a captain who wrote it, that's also a reason why people might want to buy the book, right? If you were like, "Oh, let me tell you this military history and I was a Marine in this unit," you would be like, "Oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about." Right? So that's possibly a reason for writing as like this captain, he's got this insider knowledge and like he knows some of these people because he says so in the book and like has met people who met these pirates and stuff like that. So he's got like cred, right? Um, so the first real like guess as to who we thought this person was is in like 1932. There's a scholar from Yale named John Robert Moore who argued that it was Daniel Defoe. Uh, the guy who also wrote like the um what was it? What's his big book? I'm blanking on it. Robinson Crusoe, right? Like about the guy who gets abandoned and shipwrecked and stuff.
That's the
So
book. I've never read it. I'll be honest. I
I mean,
just
I know I haven't either. I know of the story kind of like basically, but like he also wrote a bunch of other things and, satire and stuff like that. But basically this guy was like, I'm a scholar of Defoe, and Defoe wrote under like he wrote some other things that are anonymous, and like this sounds like him. Like I'm the expert on Defoe and it's like his language, right? Um so that was the first real guess about who this person is. But also like that's not a huge basis, right? Like we don't have any sort of real proof that he actually did it, right? This guy's just like it sounds like something he would have written. Like with Shakespeare, there's like fake plays attributed to Shakespeare and stuff like that.
hmm
We don't really know for sure. But when I was like working on this class I was putting together, I read this 2004 article that argues it's a different guy named Nathaniel Mist, who was a printer, like writing at the same time. Um, and there's a lot of reasons why, like, the author kind of gives you like the reasoning for why it might be him. So like he was a printer and like printed his own stuff. So he could have printed this book, right? And then started selling it in someone else's uh shop. He also was a Jacobite, which I don't know if y'all know what Jacobites were. They were like
Yep.
the people who supported James the Third, who had gone into hiding after the Glorious Revolution. So like these guys are like the people who are like supporting the government that's now not the real government, right? They fled and like the king's no longer the king because it's these other
That it
people.
wasn't he in France? Wasn't he
Yeah,
like
so he
taken
flees
away
to
in France?
France and then, tries to retake the throne a few times,
Yeah.
but like this guy was a supporter of him, and actually a lot of pirates were, surprisingly. Like from this account and some of the other ones we have, like they would often like name their ships after King James and stuff like that, which would be like a middle finger to the actual government where you're like, this is the like whatever um ship. I don't know. I can't really think of like a modern equivalent.
A modern equivalent.
I don't want to say like a
You know what
Trump,
is all that's
like a
coming to my
J6er
mind
when
is
they're like Trump's the real president, but I mean, kind of.
I don't know why Cesar Chavez was coming to mind.
It's a
He's just been
bad,
in the news lately.
yeah.
Cue to the government. Ooh, who's the guy who did WikiLeaks? Snow?
Oh, was it
Snowden?
Snowden or whatever?
I feel like that's an equivalent, right? Like,
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, someone who's like critical of the government and like goes
hmm
into hiding and stuff like that. He also like another reason like that the author gives for why they think it's this guy is that he had his own newspaper, like his own journal, and he printed a review of it where he's like, "Wow, this book is so good. It could only have been written by a real captain, and he really knows what he's talking about." Like it's this very like promotional kind of book review.
hmm
And that's a pretty good reason to think that like this guy may have had motive, right? Like he puts this other book out with his friend and then it's like, "Oh yeah, you guys should buy that book. Like this is the real shit," right? Like
Yeah, he's like pushing it too hard.
yeah. So I mean, that's interesting because it gives us some actual like concrete like evidence from the time that it could be someone. I kind of like after reading that article was pretty convinced. Um that was the case. But it also doesn't like, all this doesn't really bode well for the book, right? So I've got some examples to give y'all of like just because it's interesting. I think like it's fun to read. It's kind of hard language sometimes just because it's written in like an older style. But it's if you want to look at like where some of these stories first come from, you could read parts of it, like the Blackbeard chapter or something like that. Um, but like one of the things that it does a lot of times is it'll repeat these big long speeches that go on for like a page or two that are like supposedly what the pirate captain says as he's like about to die in combat because we know that this guy died and was killed by someone. And as a reader you're kind of like was someone sitting there writing this whole thing down as like the cannons are going off and like they're about to get boarded, like
No,
Yeah, I
I
was
think that's
wondering,
gotta be, they've got to be taking liberties.
yeah, I was like, I heard him correctly. I know you said as the captain is dying, they were writing it. Was he like,
yeah.
hold on, guys, where's my pencil? Like,
Yeah, I mean, there's like speeches for Blackbeard before he dies and stuff, and other ones, and we're like, I'm like, it's kind of like they're like, giving you this account of the battle, and they're like, and everyone at the battle died, and you're like, so how did
they're like
you?
those people that tell you stories and they're always trying to one up you and you're like, I had this and they're like, well, this happened and then my mom came and then everyone clapped and the plane clapped and I clapped and Jesus came and he clapped for me. Like it's
Yeah.
like,
The
okay.
plane clapped. I'm absolutely sent. That's ridiculous.
Not
So
laid out
so one
airplanes right now.
So one of the things that this does, another thing that it does that I think like, it should make you kind of pause a little bit and say like, okay, like I don't know that I can accept all of this is it takes the story of Henry Avery, who's a pretty famous pirate, and tries to give him like a proper ending where he gets like a bad ending. Because historically, this guy just disappears and like he gets away, right? Like he's super famous in England in the like late 1600s because he pulls off like the heist of the century and then disappears and no one knows like what happened to him. He just like disappears
That
out of
just
history.
sounds like a man with a plan.
Right, right. Like, cause in the documents, like we have no idea what happens to him, and then this leads to all sorts of rumors that he's like still out there and like has survived, right? So, like in 1707, there's this anonymous pamphlet that says that that was supposed to be his like autobiography, where he's like, "Oh, I'm writing to you from Madagascar, where I'm the king of the pirate community, and here's how I got away." It's kind of like, that kind of thing. And we don't think that's real, right? Like when a source like that comes up, we're like, even people at the time were like, "This is BS. Like this isn't a
Hmm.
real, it's a hoax."
But
Right?
also, this is the time where like you don't have to go that far to be gone.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
you
you
could
could
Yeah.
just
really disappear.
go.
It's way easier to disappear then than it is now, right? Like
Hmm.
if you were like, I just want to peace out and just leave my whole life.
Especially with money,
Yeah.
especially if you just got a whole haul. Oh yeah, I'd
So,
be tootling.
do y'all know anything about Henry Avery? Like, have y'all heard of him as a
No.
pirate? I remember first hearing about him because I was playing the video game Uncharted 4, and that's all like it's always tied to like pirate lore somehow and looking for treasure. So they're looking for like his treasure in that game, right? Like it's inspired like even video games today and stuff. But what he
Where is
does
it?
is do what?
Where is it? Where's the treasure? Where do
Oh,
they
it's
go
in like
looking?
Southeast Asia in the video game because there's some complicated like, oh, where could he have gone, and like there's secret maps and right, like I mean like they flesh this out and like make it a fun story. But like in real life we know that so what he did is he actually robbed a treasure ship that the uh the Mughal emperors in India had sent to Mecca. So this is part of like their pilgrimage, and this treasure fleet is going to deliver like money and virgins and stuff like that to the holy city.
What year is this?
This is like the late 1600s, like
Oh, this was
1694,
before
1695.
Nader got there then. This was before Nader from Persia got there and did that whole like pillaging of the Mughal
Yeah, so it was
Empire.
still the
They
Mughals.
still had the peacock throne. So they
Yeah.
were sending lots of
Yeah,
gold.
so
That
they're
would have been
sending
a
like all
goodie.
these
That
riches,
would have
like
been a
these
goody,
treasure
goody,
ships.
goody.
So like but I mean that was like a thing that rich leaders did since like Mecca's founded is they would, there's caravans that would go across Africa to take these treasures to Mecca. Like it was part of like how you showed your support as a Muslim. So these ships are sailing and Henry Avery and his men go around the Cape of Africa and they attack these ships and capture like the prized treasure ship. It had enough gold like today, it would be the equivalent of like $103 million worth
Yeah.
of gold.
Yeah. They had good
They
shit
had,
at
yeah, they
that
got the
time.
good shit and like
Mhm.
they took the prize shit out of the treasure fleet. And so they had like about $103 million worth of like gold and gems and pearls and like all sorts of like precious shit, right? And so then the rumor gets out after that that like they also captured this ship full of virgins and raped all of them, which would have been this huge affront to the Mughals, right? Because these were like virgin daughters that they had sent and stuff like that. So this creates an international incident where the Mughals are like going to the like East India Company officials saying like you like we're going to kill you and we're never going to do business with your country again, right? So like to the point where London puts out a huge bounty of like £1,000 on Avery. If anyone catches this guy in his career dead or alive, then you get £1,000, right? Which is a huge sum of money. But he and his men divide the treasure and they split, right? And that's where the story ends in terms of what we know. Like they disappear and they're never heard from again.
I don't know. I was with this guy right up until the very end. I was like, okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling the story. And
But we
then
don't know for sure if he did, right? We don't know if that was like a rumor that they spread to explain like how bad these people were who attacked them. Like we don't know for sure, right? But they
That's
might
a
have. I mean,
that's
let's
a
be real.
wild rumor to spread about
It is
someone.
a it's very specific, right? So like I
is
don't know.
that
I
why we're
definitely think it's
more
possible because these
cautious because
people
it's
are
specific?
That
no,
makes
I
me
mean
think it
I
happened
think they
more.
could have done it. We just don't know,
It is kind
Like
of wild that there would just be a ship of just virgins, just a ship full of them.
yeah, but it's like you send them to Mecca as part of like the pilgrimage or something.
Well,
I
they
don't
did that in like Rome and stuff where they buried virgins because they were like holy or whatever.
They're just ship. I guess that makes
Yeah.
sense to ship if you're sending all of your most valuable things to send an
What a
unprotected
weird
ship of virgins.
Yeah.
patriarchal situation.
Yeah, this is a
So we
weird history to learn about.
it is. So we have like the story of Avery in here like lays all that out and kind of follows what we do have from other accounts like newspapers and stuff up until the end because like I would argue that whoever wrote this wanted to fix the ending and like have him get like the bad ending he deserves because pirates are bad, right? And we want the king to step in and help like stop them, according to this book. So he tells this story of how like basically Avery gets to England and like wants to like retire and everything and like but needs help, right? He needs to buy land, he needs to buy all these things and everyone cheats him out of his money because they're like, I know who you are, and I won't tell if you give me more. And so they take away all of his money, and he dies in poverty. Which seems a little like it's a little bit of a curve from like how all the other stories were like, hell yeah, he got away with it. And this one's like, no wait, actually, he lost all his money and he died.
Damn, that's
Yeah, but
because
I want
And
to
then
be
he
like it's
made
like
this. He lost all his, sorry, Randy, but he lost all his money, but then he had enough money to print this. But he lost all his money and he died.
Yeah, the end.
That's
Don't
weird.
be a pirate. Like,
This feels like propaganda.
it
don't
does,
be a
right?
pirate.
We
I mean,
have, they're
and
like,
that's
these
where
are
like,
the stories you may have heard things about, but like, these are the consequences. If you pirate, you will die.
yeah. So another thing that yeah, no, it's just like, I think he's trying to like tell this moral tale, right? And be like, this is what you get if you do something like that. Don't be pirates, Like it's like a cautionary tale for like what happens to these people, but people also like all the killing in the stories and like the rape and stuff would be like exciting to someone reading it in the 1700s.
Yeah, they did. Well, now I don't know when this book was written, but it's reminds me of Tessa the D'Urbervilles. That whole book is just so that you can listen to her get raped.
No.
Three different, not listen,
I
but read
yeah,
that it happened
I
three different times.
haven't read that.
Oh, well, spoiler.
But I did read like the Sleeping Beauty Anne Rice books. I don't know if y'all have read those that she wrote under a pen name.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have read them.
Yes.
I like them,
And
but
that's
you
for
have to
yeah,
be
I
a
know, but
niche
that's like
person
it's definitely
to.
you're there for like the sex scenes in that,
Yeah, no, those book. She said I read the intro to one of the books. One of her books writes she wrote the erotica that she wanted to read,
Mhm.
and I'm like,
Damn
all right,
girl.
Anne. But she used to host R.I.P. Anne. She used to host a vampire ball in New Orleans, so like she's a party girl.
Oh
Yeah, that's
yeah.
like really on brand.
Someone who I knew at the conference I went to in Maryland back in January was like an English student, and her professor was like, "We're here at this conference. Let's have lunch with my friend Anne." And this is like in the 80s. And so she didn't realize it was Anne Rice until like everyone else was like fawning over her, and she's like, "Who are we hanging out with?" And they're like, "Oh my God, it's this lady who writes these vampire stories," because they still weren't super popular.
I absolutely love her. I definitely would be fangirling so hard. She'd be
Yeah,
embarrassed that she brought me there. Yeah.
I read a lot of those books, a
I have not
lot.
read one. I have not read one.
That was like formative to my high school reading and all the shit I was into at that
I
time.
was reading Tamora Pierce and
I read
Holly
that book
Black
in
on some.
sixth grade. Once again, I read that too early. Someone should have monitored what I was reading.
Which
I
one?
read Interview with the Vampire in sixth grade.
Oh, in sixth grade. I was probably like eighth grade. I feel like eighth grade's it's still a little weird in some parts.
Yeah.
The bit with what's her name, the
The
young
doll.
girl, the vampire.
Oh, yes, the
Yeah,
Oh
child.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That's
That
weird.
Armand,
What is
that
her name? What
not
is her name?
Armand Lestat
Claudia.
turns.
It's
Yeah,
Claudia
Oh,
and Louis and
yeah. Lestat.
Lestat.
that is so
Yeah.
ups. Now I've seen the movie 100 times.
I love the
Now that's
movie.
not true.
That
Probably
movie was
like a
wild for me.
dozen.
I watched that movie too young too. I should not have watched that either.
Kirsten Dunst
Yeah.
was so good. Honestly,
She's
as that little
phenomenal.
girl, she was phenomenal.
It's a good movie.
Hmm.
Phenomenal.
I don't know how we got here.
I
Okay,
don't
Greg,
remember.
pirates.
Okay, all right. So the other thing that's so with Blackbeard, right? So like everyone loves Blackbeard. He's probably like the most famous pirate. But one of the things that's again kind of weird about this book is that he like in the first edition, Blackbeard's born in one place, and then in the second edition, he's born in another. And so that's led to all sort of speculation about like who this guy actually was, right? Like people trying to figure out, who was Blackbeard, because like where you're born matters, right? And so in the first edition, he's born in Jamaica. So he's a colonial, right? He's in the colonies. He begins pirating there, so he would have been part of the culture and, you know, may have been part of a family there of planters, like probably was. There's some evidence that like if his last name was Thatch instead of Teach, that he had family there because there were Thatches in Jamaica. So like that's what's in the first edition, but then for whatever reason in the second one, he changes it to Bristol, which is in England. So he's English, but then he goes over there and becomes a pirate later. Like meets up with people
Oh
like
yeah, those
Benjamin
are two
Hornigold.
completely different origin stories.
They're very
I was
different
thinking,
origin stories.
I was thinking it was gonna be like two different like locales in the same area.
Yeah.
No, you went all the way across the
Yeah, but
ocean.
even in both of them, he doesn't really talk much about like his early life. Like it's just kind of like, okay, he's from here and then he started attacking here, right? Like we don't really know anything about like the early life for any of these people.
To be fair, it's probably part of that pirate profession, right? Like,
Yeah.
why would you be giving people your information? Well,
Hmm.
you're probably once you're a pirate, you're like, my past doesn't matter. This is what I am
Yeah.
now. You know, I think pirates predominantly didn't they come from humble origins in
Yeah,
those
they're
time
usually not
periods?
like the only
Yeah.
elite person in any of these stories is Stede Bonnet. Like we know he was a planter in Barbados and he like leaves behind his wife and kids and becomes a pirate. Like he ditches his family and is like, peace out. Like has a ship built and goes and becomes a pirate.
You know what that reminds me of? This is Karina. You can cut this part out if you'd like, but this reminds me of a story that I saw in 2020 one time of a man who would work for 6 months and then would spend 6 months traveling by train. Like he would jump trains like a an old style hobo for 6 months and go live on the train system. Like that's what it's giving, Steve Bonnet. Like I have a life like I built for myself. But for 6 months of the year, I'm gonna go be wild. Like I'm
Yeah.
I
I'm
need
gonna go
it.
be
Well,
It's what I
that's where
free.
need.
like we don't know why. Like, so the story in that says that he had some disorder of the mind. So people are like, did they think it was like mental illness? Did he go crazy? Like, but that's also where like in the show, like our flag means death. That's how they're like, it's there's also it talks about marital troubles. Like, so it's like he and his wife had issues, and that's where like our flag means death is able to make him gay because they're like, that's why. Like, he's gay and doesn't want to be with her, and you know decides to go like has this crazy idea to become a pirate. Like that's basically the premise to that show.
I mean,
But
that's the
there's
only logical solution, I
yeah.
think. Yeah.
I mean, I think that makes it more interesting if he's gay. But um so with Blackbeard though, so like already like we're kind of like iffy on his origin, right? But like this is where we get a lot of the stories of him like putting like cannon fuses in his hat so that it makes like his face look like it's smoking and like he's a demon or something like that because
Mm.
that's in a lot of the accounts of him and that's where like this comes from. But again, like this guy's trying to sell books and tell like some, interesting like exotic tales and stuff like that. So he also like in trying to like show how cruel Blackbeard is, he puts in some wild stuff, including like basically like a rape scene in the story. So like when he's talking about how awful Blackbeard is, he's like he was married to like 14 women, 12 of which I hear are still living and are probably still alive. So he would go from like port to port in different places and marry women. But then he says, basically like, and let me tell you about like what he liked to do when he would visit his brides. Like on the wedding night, he would like have sex with her and he said he would lay with his wife for the night and then have, and this is quoting directly from it, 5 or 6 of his brutal companions to come ashore and he would force her to prostitute herself to them all one after another before his face. So this would be like, that's pretty extreme for a story in the 1700s to be like basically he would have them like run a train on his wife while he sat there and watched.
A cuckold story, huh?
Yeah, is
Interesting.
it a cuckold story? Like what are they like like what kind of story is it? Is it a hot wife kind of
A
thing? Like
voyeur, it could be.
voyeur? Like, but
There are
still it's pretty
options, guys.
kinky for the 1700s.
I do have a question. So, what year did it come out? And then what year did it change?
1724. And then 1724 is the first edition, and then
Yeah.
like 6 months later, the second edition comes out, and that's
Six
when.
months. Six
So in
months.
6 months, so they printed like editions would be like you'd print a certain number of copies, and then once they sold out, you ordered another edition, right? So by 2 years later, by 1726, there had been four editions. So it had sold out a bunch of times. In fact, I even think the guy I'm writing my book on, I was reading this entry where he talks about reading a history of the piracies, and I think that he's talking about this book.
Oh,
So he's
wow.
reading it
What
in
a
colonial
fun connection.
Massachusetts. So these books are traveling like throughout the British Empire for people to read.
Which I am just kind of connecting it to, I'm curious if it has anything to do with the fact that like around that time people were trying to, it's like the beginning of revolutionary thoughts in my opinion. Like you start to kind of be like, okay, well maybe we're trying to find a common enemy together as colonial people.
Yeah.
Would
Well, so you
changing it
actually have there's a street in London called Grub Street where you have this whole like array of illegal print shops that would like pop up and disappear that would publish like books that were banned basically. So like pirate media and stuff that like, that you weren't allowed to have and that you would have to hide because it was like contraband books. Like back
Mm,
before there was truly like a free press, like governments like the French government did this, the English government would like ban books and be like, no one can read that. If we catch you with it, there's gonna be consequences,
gross. Who would ban a book?
Never a good position when you're banning books.
Mm-mm.
right?
It's not a good look.
Although I say that, and I do know books I would ban, so. Never allowed in
Only
my
the right
library.
ones. I remember reading a few years ago, it was a big deal when Germany allowed like an academic version of Mein Kampf to be published because they didn't allow it after World War II.
With
And it
reason.
only
Yeah.
was like with like academic commentary. So it'd be like, a Bible with commentary where there's all sorts of footnotes about everything and like essays on like, you know, Nazism and stuff like that. So it was a big deal for them to even publish that, like not even 10 years ago, I don't think.
But I get I feel like there's a balance. But I also think that
Yeah.
yeah, I think that we should be, I think, I'm not saying I think that all copies of everything should be destroyed, but I don't think that
Mhm.
it should be allowed for everyone to have every book. I think sometimes we should
Yeah.
have a restriction section.
I think that's
Like,
fair.
because, well, and it's kind of wild.
Restricted is a nice way of saying that. Restricted is
I
a
don't
nice
think
way.
burn it down. I don't think we need, but I don't think that all knowledge should be for everyone. Which, saying all that, the internet makes all of that null and void for the most
Yeah.
part. You will find something.
Oh no, see, when I think of restricted though, when you say knowledge not for everyone, I'm just like not for not for the vulnerable, if that makes
Yeah, I
sense.
Well,
feel like there's like age
exactly.
appropriateness for some
Yeah,
things.
that's
I'm
really all
thinking
I'm worried
of,
about.
I'm
I'm
also
not worried
thinking
about like
about,
keeping knowledge from like bad people. I
no, but
they're gonna
like,
make it themselves, you know.
books on how to make bombs or something like that. Like maybe
Yeah.
not everyone should be able to buy that.
Yeah.
See,
That's why
again, I
like the
still think they're
anarchist
gonna figure it
cookbook is
out.
like,
No, they will, but we should
online and
make it
stuff.
easier. I shouldn't give you a map to do it.
Yeah.
Whatever, the internet makes it nothing happen. I mean, people are gonna find what they want to find.
Yeah. I also have no desire to build a bomb, so like I don't need
Same,
to
same.
try to find the book, you know?
I've been watching too
I'd
much
like
true
the
crime,
skill.
and there was a child. It was like a 17-year-old, and they were like, "This is how you build a bomb." It was wild.
Did I tell you all about the lockpicking kit that I got?
I
The
think
kid or
you have
kit?
said
I
it, but
can't
I just love
I
that
can't
fact,
remember.
Greg.
I haven't like messed around with it in a while, but like I really want to learn that skill because I'm like that's a good skill to know, like how to pick a lock.
I've done
Especially
it before.
if oh, Randy.
I have. It's
These
great.
these are these are facts that I can verify.
So the last thing that I think is just interesting that I'll share about this is that it also prints some stories that we are pretty sure are like completely fictional, like made up people. But like one of those stories is really interesting, so I wanted to share a little bit about that. Because in the second, so there was a first volume, and then in later editions, he started publishing a second volume that added more and like some additional stories, and then they started getting published together. And the first story in that second volume is about a French pirate named Captain, I think it's James Misson, who we don't think is real, right? There's no like records in French sources or anything about this guy. So he seems kind of like totally made up. And like when you learn more about his story, you're like, that sounds pretty wild and like pretty far-fetched. But this is like the kind of thing that would have made a book like this illegal, right? Or at least like, not like why someone might want to publish it anonymously. Because the story is basically about this pirate who is French and he's, on this warship, so he's sailing for like the French government and he goes to Rome and meets this priest named Caraccioli, who was, it calls him a lewd priest. So basically, this priest that had like left the Catholic Church and was rogue. And he convinces Misson that like your faith is a lie, God isn't real, the church made him up, like all like everything we believe about religion is just BS, right? So he convinces and like converts Misson to believe that, and then converts the rest of the crew. Uh, so like not only does so he's a corrupt priest because he doesn't believe in God, right? But not only does he not believe in God, he has wild ideas about government too. So, and so this is a quote from that text. It says, "He fell upon government and showed that every man was born free and had as much a right to what would support him as to the air he respired, that the vast difference betwixt man and man, the one wallowing in luxury and the other in the most pinching necessity, was owing only to avarice and ambition on the one hand, and I can't say that word, pusillanimous subjection on the other." So basically, there's rich people and they're like oppressing the poor people, and that's the only difference. We're all the same, and like this is all like wealth is artificial, and these rich people shouldn't be doing that, basically. So,
Well, that's
so these,
true. I mean,
yeah. So these men are all like, fuck yeah, that's true. That's how things actually are. And so they decide to become pirates, basically. And they're like, fuck the French, we're not going to like serve them anymore. And they go about pirating, agreeing to share the wealth on the ship, deciding that all should be in common. So basically, we're communist pirates, and everything that we take in, we all share, and we're all equal, right?
Yay.
you know what I
So
really love about pirate ships
it
is
gets
that
even better too.
whenever you hear about their government system, I every time I hear it, it's usually like democratic or it's
Hmm.
communal. Like they're really rocking some socialist values
Yeah.
on those pirate ships.
Well, so a lot of the accounts, like they seem really upset about like living on a ship and like as a sailor on like a merchant ship, even or like a government, like a military ship, was like awful at the time. Like captains abused people, and like almost all the accounts, like they really hate the captains. And even when they would take ships, they would like quiz the crew on like if the captain was good or not. And if they thought if the crew was like, fuck that guy, he's terrible, he beats us and everything, they'd typically kill the captains and let the crew go.
Oh,
So
wow.
they would be like, all right, this guy fucking sucks. Let's kill him. And you guys, y'all are cool, right? You don't have to be oppressed anymore. Go do whatever you want. And sometimes people would join up with the crew, and sometimes they would leave. So we know that's like pretty true because it's like shows up in a lot of the sources beyond this one. It's in these stories too, but like in other ones.
I mean, that makes complete sense. They were people that didn't have a lot of means, so they went to piracy to be able to make it in this world.
Yeah,
And it's no one, and and then they were given the opportunity for some freedom, so they gave other oppressed people more
yeah.
opportunity.
It's very Robin Hoodie.
Oh my
Mhm.
Well, some
gosh, I was
people
gonna
like,
say that.
yeah.
Damn.
Well, and some of
You
these
gotta
people would
speak
like
up, Danielle.
they do a
I
couple.
was
Sorry, Greg.
No, you're good. Well, I was gonna say, like, I mean, we don't know how many people were pirates either, because like there were lots. We have lots of newspaper reports of piracy, and so like you might have one or two big scores that you get away with, and then you just retire, and you're like, I'm not gonna be a pirate anymore because I have what I need. I have money. And I can do something else. I can buy land or whatever somewhere in the colonies even. So like, there's lots of people that probably like we just don't know. Like they, might have been pirates, and then they take a fake name and just set up somewhere. They get to Philadelphia or Providence and they're just like, hey, I'm Jack Smith and I'm gonna go buy some land and farm now. Like we just don't know how many people had a background like this or robbed a ship.
Listen,
How
I love the
fun.
internet, but it gave us so much inability to be anonymous.
Yeah. So it gets even better though, because then like once they like sail out and start going down the coast of Africa, they capture a Dutch slave ship off the west coast of Africa. And so then they freed the slaves and brought them onto the ship. And Misson declared then, and so this is a quote, the trading for those of our own species could never be agreeable to the eyes of divine justice, that no man had power of the liberty of another, and while those who professed a more enlightened knowledge of the deity sold men like beasts, they proved that their religion was no more than Crimus. For his part he hoped, he spoke the sentiments of all his brave companions. He had not exempted his neck from the galling yoke of slavery and asserted his own liberty to enslave others. Um, so basically, he's like, slavery is wrong. Like, men shouldn't sell each other. Y'all are free. And basically like was like slavery is terrible and it shouldn't exist. And so some of the men joined up with them, others left and they went on their way. So he did this like with any of the slave ships that he encountered. And so he continues to sail around Africa and ends up at Madagascar, where they form like a pirate utopia called Libertalia, where everyone lived in common, supposedly. They shared everything. You know, people went pirating and took stuff back, and it was just basically a great utopia. And people elected their leaders and lived democratically, basically.
A great utopia born through the violence of raiding. But yes.
Yeah, so they had like
This
a
is definitely
council.
propaganda.
Everyone
Yeah.
voted on the rules, like on like who got what, and basically, you know, they were socialists. And that's kind of where Misson ends. And so, like, he's, you know, founds this perfect colony, and, religion's fake, governments are fake, like, everyone live in common. And then later pirates show up in the other stories. And so, like, that also makes us kind of suspicious because, like, we know pirates operated in Madagascar, but there's no like Libertalia that we've ever found or like any solid proof of. So again, he's probably blurring fact and fiction, but just even having the pirates get away and like live in this way would have been like really scandalous for the time, right? Because that's not how the world was. We have classes and hierarchy and slavery and all of that.
There seems to be a lot of morality being passed on these stories by the author.
Oh yeah.
I
The
mean,
unknown author.
yes,
Yeah.
well, I'm just saying because like how can you want Avery to like to his story to be like don't become a pirate, pirates are so bad, and then you go on to tell a story about pirate utopia where everyone's living in equality? Like
So there's
how
another theory that it's like multiple authors, but that makes it even harder to figure out like who, then you're getting into like who wrote which story and trying to figure that out. It's kind of like some of the stuff people get into with like who wrote the books of the Bible and stuff
yeah,
like that.
it's definitely giving, honestly, what it feels like to me is like an oral histories that have just been passed
Probably.
that he was collecting. That's what it feels like, a collection
And
of
it could very well have been, right? Like, I mean, and that's part of the reason the guys who think it's Defoe are like, well, he lived close to the shipyards at one point, so he could have like talked to the sailors and gotten some of these stories and written them down. But like again, Mist also lived close to the harbor, like so like he could have also done the same thing, right? Or had contacts or something like that who would tell him these stories. So we
Mhm.
just really don't know, right? I mean, that's one of the mysteries of it. But it's almost like the perfect breeding ground for legends too, though, and that's why like I'll like sometimes I'll read like a modern thing on the internet about Blackbeard, and it'll say some wild thing, and I'm like, where did that come from? Because that's not even in the earliest stuff, and we know that's problematic. So like people add all sorts of things to these stories as time goes on. They become folk tales essentially.
Right, like my Blackbeard, when I think of Blackbeard, because this is how little pirate like lore that I intook when I was a kid, I think of Treasure Planet. And like
That's
the
fair.
space pirate that's basically based on Blackbeard. Like not even like I don't know that I could tell you any mythology around Blackbeard.
I
Uh,
think like Muppet Treasure Island and Hook, like the Robin Williams one.
No, I hate Muppets. Mm-mm.
You
But
don't like
Hook,
Muppet
that's
Christmas
Hook,
Carol?
Blackbeard.
You don't like the Muppet Christmas Carol?
No.
Okay,
Oh, I
but the
watch that
Muppet
all the
Christmas
time.
Carol, the Ghost of Christmas Present, is a fucking nightmare.
I do love A Christmas Carol. Disney's A Christmas Carol. Is that the one you're talking about? The
No,
animated
Muppet
one,
Christmas
Karina?
Carol has a very
Oh,
specific
the
Ghost of
Muppet.
Christmas Present. I
No.
had to watch it out of the house because Evan also does not like Muppets, but it has a very I need to find it and show it to you because I
Oh,
watched Muppet
is it like the girl or whatever?
Yes,
Yeah, okay,
horrendous.
that is creepy. She's
The
very like
worst thing.
ethereal.
She's got dead eyes and a weird spirit.
That's
But
fair.
I do not.
Karina's reading auras now.
I watched, okay, I watched it and I watched it out of the house because my husband does not like Muppets, so I was trying to be respectful. And I'm watching this movie and I'm having a great time, and then this fucking ghost comes out and I was like, this is why we don't trust Muppets, okay? Because of this. Like I will have
They're
nightmares.
so creepy. Yeah, Muppets are so creepy.
I
And
love
it's
the other
nothing
Muppets, but
against,
not that one.
yeah, it's nothing
Just not
against
that one.
puppets. I don't mind puppets so much. Muppets, I really don't care for.
I like the Muppets.
Mm-mm.
They're
it
got
was
people
not.
That
Mm.
one thing that talks, I can't even
that could
remember its
literally
name.
be any of them. They're
Oh
all kind of
God,
things.
its voice is so annoying.
What does it look like?
It's got fat lips. It's a dude. I know it's a dude. Well, it's got a deeper voice.
Some girls do have a deep voice.
Yeah, that's why I said it has a deeper voice. I'm still using gender non-confirming words. It, they.
You're like, I still don't
Oh,
know.
a round, like a oblong round nose.
What color?
I think orange, but again, I don't watch this enough to be really describing anything to you. Like this is a conglomeration of Muppets in my head at this
I
point.
also mix that up with like Sesame Street too,
Mm.
because
We
I
didn't
watched a
watch
lot of that as
Sesame
a
Street,
kid.
really, did we? I don't ever remember watching Sesame Street.
No, but we could name some characters if need be.
Yeah, sure.
I did watch the Sesame Street when I taught pre-K. We sang the Usher song with them about being calm and your monster when you get angry and how you calm down and you take deep breaths.
So did
So
they
I
have
It's
Usher as a guest?
so
yes, and so
That
Usher would sing them
that's kind of
through it.
cute.
Love that.
Yeah, my
I
kids
need to
loved
find
it.
that.
So
it's like Snoop Dogg's morning album. I love his positive affirmation
I
album.
that was
do
part
enjoy
of our
that
Oh,
morning
album.
routine. We watched the doggies and we would say it,
Get
our
it?
affirmations to start our day because
Yeah,
we were going to make good choices.
Snoop can sing that to me.
Greg, do you
yeah.
have more about pirates?
No, that was the main thing I have. I mean, I think
Okay,
everyone should like read it. You
I
can
have to
find this for
pee.
free on the internet. Like just it's interesting, right? Like you can just pick some random, some of them get a little boring, but like if there's a particular pirate you want to read about, like that's famous, like it's a good place to start, right? It's interesting, but there are things to be aware of, like I kind of laid out here.
I really absolutely love learning about this. I felt like every turn was a shock. You took me places, both of you kind of took us places I didn't think we were going to go. I don't know.
Same. I liked pirates going into this, but I learned a lot more about them. And I'm really I love the female aspect of it because I'm not gonna lie, when I think of pirates, it's not necessarily the female taking control that I envisioned, like Mulan did when she saved her town, city.
Yeah.
She like did the
Yeah.
same thing, man.
Well, and honestly, we all watched, most of us have watched Pirates of the Caribbean, and I think that aspect of women having more autonomy than they did in like everyday life, I didn't even think about it really because I was like, oh, it's a movie. But like
Mm.
to know that they really did have a lot more power and say in their everyday life is really like inspiring. And I am like, I agree with Christina. I wish we would have learned about this. Like, because I do definitely think that if I knew women could be capable of so much greatness instead of like just being taught that our only role is to be in the kitchen,
Hmm.
like I wonder who the person I would be, you know? And also,
We
I
should do
too
a women
aspire to
pirates
be,
episode.
huh?
I said we should do a women pirates
Yes,
episode.
I did write it down. It's in a list somewhere.
Because I cut some of, I was gonna do some stuff on that, but then I was like, I think this is enough. So like Mary Reed and Anne Bonny are both in this, and they're really interesting. Those stories are definitely like there to sell, but like they're also really interesting if some of it's true, you know?
Mm-hmm. It is really inspiring. Any other last thoughts before we go, guys?
I know, Christina, how'd you enjoy it?
I really enjoyed, and I mean, I know I tell you guys this all the time. I feel like I live under a rock until we have these like discussions, but it's super cool to, I mean, kind of like, I mean, even just like the woman aspect of it, but overall, like the stories out of the book, Greg, like knowing, I don't know, it's crazy because like knowing that like a part of us knows that like pirates are a thing, but like we said, like growing up and not really learning about it or even really hearing about it and then seeing it in a movie, you almost think that it's like, oh, like this is made up, like this can't be real. And actually hearing like the stories about it and hearing about like what really went on and like I mean it's basically kind of like how you guys explain like it's a business, it's a it's a job, it's something that people took, they 10 toes down, they took it serious, they went about it and they was about it. And um I don't know, I love learning about stuff like this because like it's I mean for me I've been a retail girly and I've been a corporate girly, you know what I mean? So like and so hearing all the other aspects of like all these other technically professions, like you said, Randy, like it's super cool to be like, no, like someone for real was like, no, my job was a pirate. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm a pirate now. Yeah.
I mean, nothing is stopping us truly from being pirates, other than not having boats or
I
knowledge
was about
of
to
being on
say,
the
I
sea.
don't know how to do any of that.
Well,
I can tie knots. I haven't done it in forever, but I learned how to tie a few different knots before I had to drop out of my sailing class at BU. So that's all I got for you, girl.
yeah, all I got is motion sickness, which will probably lead into seasickness. So I'm sorry, guys. I would not be a good crewmate.
this pirate crew is not it,
I
guys.
was like,
Sorry.
let's stick with our curling team, okay?
Yes, we have a lot of endeavors here at the Sip and Saga Society. Well, thank you guys, Greg and Randy, for informing us about pirates today. It was really such a journey from Jonestown to random made up pirate worlds. I don't know. I was trying to say Latvia, but I was like, I think that's actually a place. But
Don't forget the stepson to lover to husband
That
arc.
one's a good
oh my
arc.
bad, I forgot. I
Yeah.
feel like I blocked that out on purpose, Randy.
Yeah, make
I was
that the
like,
sound bite.
never forget.
Never forget Chang Pao.
I kind of want that to be a sticker. I think that would be so funny. Anyway, if you want stickers, we have them on our website, sipandsaga.online, where we also have other merch like sweats that might be too warm in the global warming environment that we live in now. Uh, crop tops, other stickers. It's a wild time on there. And also, we have our book club. You can sign up for that at any tier. So we have a great time. And our next book will be Cloud Atlas.
It sure will be.
We just read about sand and we just had our book club today. It was phenomenal. There will be a informative poster coming out later this week.
I really did not mean to make everybody so upset, but can I just say to everyone that is questioning my recommendation of a book about sand, everyone in the book club who read it all the way gave it a 10 out of 10. Now, I'm not sure an actual 10 out of 10 because I didn't get hard numbers, but they said they enjoyed it. So,
As a person who's not finished but halfway through it, I did enjoy it, but be prepared to be angry and also concerned about how much sand is in the world. Like there's so much sand.
in
Randy,
your
what?
world specifically.
Yeah, well, in our world, because it's my world, your world, anybody on this earth right now, there is sand around you and it is coming for you. Anyway, I don't have my script in front of me, so it's just but thanks for listening. Bye
Yep.
now.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.